all relative to the prohibition of dumping and/or burning of specified substances and providing for penalties for a violation thereof.
I got a request to speak for Mr. Billy Broussard. Mr. Broussard, would you come to the podium? For the record, just state your name.
My name is Billy Broussard.
And we have 5 minutes to speak. If you need more time, let me know.
First of all, about the ordinance, I'm just curious to know, is there any constituents here that are in grievance because of their value, their property, or health issues, or anything that y'all know of? So there's no one here
That's in Poche Bridge?
see, they on Poche Bridge and have issues with this in Poche Bridge?
Yes.
Okay, nobody on Duchamp Road? Nobody. Okay, I will mention, I bought some property on Duchamp Road, and I've spoke to many of y'all about the issues that I have with the ordinance. And I'm hearing different interpretations of the ordinance and how it's gonna apply from everyone's, depending on who I speak to. And I think that it bothers me that if each one of y'all have a different, thought of how it might be enforced right now, years down the road, when we have a different group, and they say, well, what was the intent for the ordinance? And they interpret it different than any of y'all know. And, I mean, you got something like this that has jail time attached to it. I believe that's pretty steep. Some issues of what's been explained to me, I'm like, I understand, that's some problems. I spoke to the representative Hugh about one of the issues that Mr. Richard spoke to about in his district, and I don't understand those problems, which is a lot different than vegetative debris. It sounds like it's tires, batteries, some serious environmental issues that can cause harm to people, their constituents. I will tell you my property, and you can ask anybody in that community, since I bought that property, their property value went up, not down. And I guarantee you anybody from that area can come in here and tell you that. Mr. Richard, there's something that we spoke about that I think this ordinance, me and you, shared with almost just to say, and we allow, as we spoke, neighbors maybe to bring debris. If we burn some debris, they can bring some debris from their area to yours, maybe to burn some trees or some branches. They might be cleaning their yard. I allow them to come to my home address, my farm address. And if this ordinance passes, if I understand right, I don't think we'll be able to do that anymore. And I don't know if that's correct or not, but if we help our neighbors out a lot, and a lot of farmers, thank God for the farmers, they help a lot of people in the community in situations like that. I've been working in the area for a pretty good while now, over 20 years. And in different areas I've seen where the farmers especially, they got water pieces of property and they go, you know what? They're doing that work right there, helping these people, y'all can put that stuff over here. And then with this ordinance, we won't be able to do that, if I understand it correctly. If I'm wrong, I'd like us to make that clear now, then while years down the road, we can go back and say, what was the intent? What were they trying to accomplish? Where, you know what I'm saying? Where they, and if St. Martin Parish, or any of y'all, any place that anybody can bring debris to, if anybody, a resident, I'm a constituent, I live on Main Street, if I have some debris and I want to bring it to a place in St. Martin Parish, or do y'all have any place that y'all can think of that I can bring it to? Government and or private sector in the parish? Nothing. There's nothing here. So the point is I feel that y'all putting the cart before the horse. If you're going to pass an ordinance and you don't even offer it to the constituents, a place that they can bring even vegetative debris. I believe that maybe down the road, this might be a great ordinance to pass after we can help the constituents do things, not just stack debris at the road and clog up the ditches and cause drainage issues. I live on Main Street, you should see what my front yard looked like yesterday. I'm on the parish line, parish water coming in, my whole front yard, my neighbors, everything flooded. If we clog up the ditches with that much debris that people that now hire people to clean their yards, licensed or not, and clean up, and if that debris has to be put in the ditch, that's where it's going to end up. I've been doing this for a long time. When they do the debris, storm cleanup and all, y'all know it ends up in the ditch. We end up with floods right after the storm, because that's where the debris ends up. So if we don't, in time, this might be something that we can do. This ordinance was, I got it around July 1st, August 3rd, in the middle of hurricane season, to put this on the constituents and anybody in this parish. I think is a bad timing, because right now, they're not cleaning up behind a storm, but they're preparing. Everybody, look, can you help me? Help me. And if, even in the private sector, if you think about how many have a place to be able to bring trees, or how many have a place that if they're inspected right now, be able to stay open. If y'all think about it and look into it, you might shut down everybody. So you're gonna have people like myself that do emergency services, helping people. You'll shut down the whole industry. Because St. Martin Parish people, there's a lot to think out of St. Martin Parish people that do this for business, etc. And if we do that right now, August 3rd, I think is just bad timing. And if you gave us, and the constituents and yourselves, and communicate and work with the private sector, I think that we can maybe partner with them, y'all can maybe partner with the private sector, and we find a way to provide the constituents a place to put their debris and make it affordable. But instead of just passing it this quick and doing a study or some research to say, how can we provide these situations for our constituents, I think we can get a lot more done than just passing the ordinance and then we figure out after how is it going to be enforced. Because jail time, I'm on Duchamp Road, and it was announced that Duchamp Road was one of the issues. I want to know if exactly what I'm doing right now, if I'm doing it tomorrow, is that going to lead me to jail time? Because if I invited any of y'all to my place, I'd be proud to bring y'all to my place. It's not a dump. It's I want to do this problem, clean up this property, bought it for cheap because it was almost worthless. But I'm doing this also for my kids in their school, to doing research, etc. I've talked to other colleges, like Southern, supposed to have dinner with the doctor here soon. It got postponed because I was so busy just here lately, to show things that we can do in our community. So I think if we take a step back and look at it, and especially right at the time of hurricane season, after it's passed, it's passed. And then how is it going, how are we going to enforce it? And who's going to enforce it? Is it going to, we're talking about jail time, is it going to be state police? Is it going to be sheriff's office?
Mr. Broussard, your time is expired.
Can I have more time?
Yeah, I think you ought to give you 3 minutes.
And I want to ask, did anybody talk to the sheriff's office or the sheriff? I talked to him, he wasn't aware of it at the time. He actually sent it to him. I wanted to know if now my sheriff is going to have his deputies pull me over or pull others over for transporting branches or leaves or something like that down the road, or putting them somewhere. And even myself, I want to know, is this something that's going to be enforced on me and who else? And I've heard that, I've talked to some and they said they were told, don't worry about it. Out of sight, out of mind. You have nothing to worry about. But they're doing the same thing I'm doing and even more. But I'm like, how is this going to, how y'all going to implement this, and who? Like right now, we have people right now, there was my name, not my name, but my property, so this is one of the problems. Since I've been there, property value went up. The places I've helped all my neighbors around me with drainage issues, with disaster cleanup, trees, root balls, etc. And you go talk to them. And I was told that there was surveillance on me, evidence. I've yet to see it, because I'd like to know what is it. If I say, hey man, I got something on you, and I got that over your head, and I don't have nothing, I would like to see it. Then that way I can explain maybe what that is. I got pictures of my place right now. I can show you after the meeting. So this is my place. Y'all come around and look at it. I find my place is what it was before in regards to trash. I haul roll-off loads of trash that neighbors over the years had dumped their shingles, etc., scraped all that up, brought it to the landfill. But I think I have a long list of things I can keep going. I don't know how much time.
I know you've asked quite a few questions and stuff, Before we go any further, I'd just like to stop for a little while to answer some of your questions you had. And Mr. Cedars, you want to make a comment on some of this and answer some of these questions? You more familiar with the ordinance than we are?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. First off, the issue with Mr. Broussard's property is twofold. One, it involves if this ordinance passes, a potential violation of the ordinance, number one. Number two is whether he wants to admit it or not, he's using that property as part of his business endeavors, period. That property is zoned R2, mixed residential. It's not zoned to accommodate the activity he's conducting. He's been told that. And he was told that way back in the fall of last year. And let me just give you, I think we need to have another lesson and instructions on how this ordinance came into being. It just wasn't solely Mr. Broussard's activity, okay? He did purchase this property September 17, 2020 for $90,000. His sale is recorded in book 1833, page 271, entry number 539478, conveyance records of this parish. Immediately afterwards, he started hauling tree stumps and related vegetative materials associated with his service. The parish government received complaints. So what did we do? According to the file that we have, a nuisance complaint, we went out and investigated. And here's a copy of our file, our nuisance file. There's an email in that file to Mr. Broussard where it states, a parish government has received complaints and a parish government representative has spoken to you via telephone, and you were advised of the zoning classification of R2. The email goes on to state, and I quote, Duchamp Road is zone R2, mixed residential, which does not allow business or debris dumping of any kind without going through the rezoning process. Close quotes. November 4th, 2020. The email also requested information about an alleged mushroom farm that Mr. Broussard had told our personnel he was going to be engaging in at that site. So we asked for information to confirm that endeavor so we could evaluate it against our ordinance, our zoning ordinance. And that was the sole issue with him at that time. We didn't hear a word from Mr. Broussard. November 20th, 2020, we re-urged that request. He responded, Mr. Broussard responded on December 3rd, 2020, quote, sorry for the delay. I have been working on it and will have it for you soon. That same day, there's a note in the file reflecting that he spoke to Ms. Morgan Alamont and to Calder Abear, her direct supervisor, about this issue. December 11th, 2020. Mr. Abear, our Director of Administration, and Ronald Solari, our Compliance Officer for our Planning and Zoning Department, visited this site and spoke to Mr. Broussard. And on that day, Mr. Broussard admitted that there was tree stumps and the like and other vegetative material being hauled to the site in connection with his tree service. A commercial activity, period. He referenced the mushroom farm idea, and again, Mr. Abear requested information about that endeavor. We had a meeting in my office where I reviewed with that department all of our outstanding nuisances, and when it came to this particular file, I requested Mr. Solari and Mr. Abear, look guys, if Mr. Broussard is continuing to operate, I want a cease and desist letter submitted to him. Well, nothing happened until the week of July 15, 2020. Nothing happened that came across my desk. Now, according to the file, according to my conversations with our administrative personnel, we never got any information from Mr. Broussard about his mushroom farm. And as I said here today, on August 3rd, 2021, we still have no information. But in any regard, on June 15th, more complaints started coming in. As a matter of fact, the June 15th, the complaint was urged to us by one of the members of this parish council who had received a complaint from a constituent. So the fact remains that there's a commercial activity taking place on this property. There is the hauling of trees and other debris, dumping at that site, which calls into question, in my view, potential DEQ and in Louisiana Department of Agriculture regulations. And I might also add that on this date, we confirmed that additional businesses were being allowed to bring vegetated material to that site. Don't know what you call that, but I call that further proof this is a commercial activity by more than one person. As late as July 29, 2021, we had a neighbor tell us he has observed another firm or tree service dumping there on Duchamp Road on Mr. Broussard's property. Now, that this ordinance might be directed only to Mr. Broussard's property is simply not true. He just fits the umbrella in part. Half that umbrella may be this ordinance, the other half is our zoning ordinance, period. And we have reached out to Mr. Broussard and asked, hey, come sit with us. If you want an exception, there's a process to follow. You just can't ignore that process. You can request a variance or a zoning exception. It'll go through a process. Planning and zoning will have a hearing. And whatever that decision might be or recommendation for planning and zoning, guess who it comes to? You. That process has never been followed. Let's go back to the week of June 15th. Let's look at June 16th. At that time, at 9:44 a.m., I received a text message from Representative Hewall about materials being dumped on Division Road in the St. Martin side. Through my conversations with Representative Hewall, it was decided that the representative would contact DEQ directly to see if we could find out who might be dumping. And I think there was some investigation conducted in that regard. Again, June 6th, it actually was June 16th when I had the opportunity to speak with one of your council members who had urged that complaint I referenced earlier. On June 17th of 2021, our compliance officer went, as a result of another complaint, to Mr. Broussard's site and observed large trucks from Mr. Broussard's company parked on that facility, on Duchamp Road. Then, on June 17th is when I contacted an attorney who handles these nuisance matters for us, Mr. Durio, and requested that he contact Mr. Broussard by letter requesting that he cease and desist from any activity on those premises until such time as we could resolve these issues, period. That same week, June 18th, 2021, have another complaint that comes into our office. Mr. Travis Hilaire was supposedly burning on debris, vegetated material near Armand Joseph Road. We received not only photographs but videos of that situation. So here again, we have a third complaint, same type of activity. That case, by the way, a cease and desist order was immediately delivered, prepared by me, and delivered, hand-delivered on that date to this individual, who subsequently was sued. You can go to the case of St. Martin Parish Government versus Travis Hilaire, docket number 090761, Division B, 16th Judicial District Court, St. Martin Parish, where we filed for injunctive relief against the individual because of the burning. It is scheduled for trial on August 24th, 2021. So any kind of indication, any kind of innuendo, any kind of reference that we're somehow singling one person out is improvident. And it's refuted by the facts of this case, by the facts of this situation. I've met with Mr. Broussard and urged the same request. I've heard all different types of scenarios as to what that property is being used for. You have heard different scenarios as to what the property is being used for, but no solid substantiation, one. And secondly, and more importantly, we still have our zoning ordinance issue that has to be addressed. Interestingly, August 2nd of this week, I received a call from DEQ, from a caseworker, I suppose that's what they would call them, the permit department, who advised me that several tree service companies have contacted his office in the last several days, just look for it, to request permits for the transportation and hauling of the debris and an open air permit to burn. Why? Because we were going to require people in that business to follow the rules. Wow. Furthermore, in my conversation with that individual from DEQ, he advised me that essentially in matters like this, 2 permits are required. A waste permit to haul and the air permit to burn. There can be some exceptions if you go through a process. Also, this individual told me that Mr. Broussard himself had that day requested and received a permit to haul. August 2nd. This matter, let me remind you, came before our administrative offices way back in November. Furthermore, I was informed in that conversation that there's only 2 services in St. Martin Parish that are following the rules. One of those companies I talked to several weeks ago, who's all for this ordinance, by the way. You know why? Because it puts everybody on the level playing field. This man in the tree service business told me it cost him $60,000 to bring his property up to standards so that he could dump on sites to burn. The other service is located and does business within the city of Breaux Bridge. Mr. I don't want to use the individual's name, but the person from DEQ did ask me if the parish would work with haulers if they needed some sort of relief in terms of zoning regulations, because he conceded, hey, we're not going to give a permit if it's not zoned for it. My response was, of course we will. But you got to go through a process. If you poison the process, you have no rule. If you poison the process, you play politics. That's not what we're doing. Period. And it's very frustrating. You know that, how hard it is and frustrating nuisance issues are to begin with. We discussed the ordinance with that DEQ official. He felt it was a fairly good ordinance. It's better. I got a lot more notes, but it gets better. Because just today I received a telephone call. Didn't write the time now. This is about 2:30, 3 o'clock. Mr. Abear, I asked you to sit with me when I received the call. About the time, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
From Commissioner Mike Strain. He said, look, I read the ordinance, or the council's ordinance that they're going to consider. Pretty good ordinance. I suggest one change. That in paragraph C1, in the exceptions, you, instead of just using the word agricultural, you use agricultural and forestry lands. Use that term. Period. For the life of me, I don't understand the objections to this ordinance. It seeks to put everybody who does business on a level playing ground, and it doesn't involve just this gentleman. It involves anyone who transports vegetative materials and dumps them in our property or on our properties and or burns that debris. But again, members of the council, we have a process to analyze and evaluate these, and we need this ordinance. It's a crying shame that we got to go to court to keep somebody from burning something in a neighborhood after they've transported it from probably outside this parish or from another location. Really and truly. So I support this ordinance. I think it's a good ordinance. I don't think it's discriminatory, and I think it's very clear. I'll thank each and every one of you who called me because we made some amendments to it as we've gone through it. And that's how government works. And I never once argued one issue with you. The changes that were suggested were good changes. And we went through a process to adopt this ordinance. It was introduced. As a matter of fact, the day I prepared, I think I wrote you an email explaining to you why this ordinance was being introduced. And then we sat down at a meeting, introduced it, came back at our committee meeting, and I talked about it again. And I think I even talked about it in my report to you. And we're here tonight to enact it. You're not moving too fast. As far as issues about storms and hurricanes, let me remind you, we're aware of that. If there is a storm and there is debris, we got a pre-positioned contract to collect that debris. After Hurricane Laura, we picked it up ourselves because the amount didn't warrant us igniting that pre-positioned contract. Now, we did ignite it after Delta. And there is a place in emergencies where the debris can be brought to a landfill permitted in the name of St. Martin Parish government to burn under emergency circumstances. This ordinance, thanks to Mr. LeBlanc, clearly provides in the amended portion, subparagraph D, that someone can clean their own yard, their own debris, and burn it on their own property. It doesn't eliminate that. And or bring it to another piece of property that person owns to burn. What you can't do is have a third party transport it for hire to another site and burn or dump, nor can you circumvent our zoning ordinance. That's all. I think it's a very good ordinance, and I think it protects our public as a whole. I'm not worried about any interpretation. I think it's clear. That's all I have. I have more, but that's all I need to say.
Mr. Broussard,
I would like to respond to what you said.
you got 3 minutes?
I would wait till after, but just in case I have to answer, if you don't mind, she goes first.
No, we're gonna talk about it.
Okay, first of all, the person beside myself that was on the property as a witness was the judge of this parish. I believe you all would hear him if he told you, or checked with me to see if I was lying. There was no money exchange. There's no business being done on this property, my interpretation. That's my interpretation, I know, because I'm the one there doing it. Understand, Mr. Cedars' interpretation. There's no money exchange.
Mr. Broussard, before we go any further on this, we're not here to argue facts or non-facts about what you're doing in your property and stuff. We're here to talk about an ordinance that we're doing for parish-wide, that we have several council members on this council that had issues with trash burning and problems also. I think, I think, but talking about your property and the issues and problems you have, I think we'd be better off talking to planning and zoning and seeing if we can get something done, or meet with our administrator and have a discussion about that. I don't think we're going anywhere with this right here. I think we've heard what you had to say, and,
Still would like to respond to
but
what
we
you said.
can't as a council, based on decision tonight on your property and the problems that you have with your thing. Our decision tonight has to be based on what is best for the whole parish as a whole, and how this ordinance would affect everyone in St. Martin Parish. We'll be giving you plenty of time to talk, if you have anything to talk about the ordinance itself, we'd like to hear, but anything that has to do with your property or what's going on with you, I don't think it's irrelevant that it's what we're talking
But
about.
there's just something he said, I want to make it clear, and he would probably say the same, especially in Stay there. There was no burning on, the burn in regards to what was coming on my property. Besides me clearing the woods in the back, I didn't bring debris there and burn it. Right, Mr. Bear? You know,
I know you didn't.
as far as he knows, as far as anybody knows, so there was no burning. So talking even to DEQ, there was no permit from DEQ in regards to burning. I asked him about it, said, but I'm not burning. So there was no burning on the property. And, I just, there was no money exchange. A picture's 1,000 words. I invited some of y'all to come and look, so where when you look at something, you go, okay, this is a different set of circumstances than what we felt. The point is in regards to the ordinance, I'm wanting to know if what I'm doing, I can't speak on some of the things, I just can't right now. So some of the issues I want to know is, if you came look at my place, you're a foreman, you come, you look at it, you go, okay, there's a possibility whatever he's doing right here, the guy, whatever's on other places, I don't know. I heard different things from the service and
Before we go to rest too forward with this right here, but the question you asked him right here, we have a process to take care of that. It's called planning and zoning. If you feel that your site is good enough to be able to burn and stuff over there and all, or to do whatever you want to do, whatever you do with your properties, it's fine. We have a plan, then you can come to planning and zoning and start the process. Planning and zoning will listen to it, they'll make a decision, give us a recommendation, it comes in front of the council. If you ask for variance to be able to do that kind of activity on your property, there's a process to that you have to do. But everything we're talking about tonight is about your property. And I don't think it's irrelevant to the fact that this ordinance that we're getting ready to vote on is just about your property. It's about the whole parish and different. Mr. Richard had just as many problems as Ms. Baptiste or maybe Mr. Champagne or Ms. Norseed has in their district with people with burning and stuff that wasn't, just ain't following the rules.
But I might support the ordinance in regards to what's going on in those properties. There's my
Well,
property
did you get a copy of
going
the
up.
ordinance?
You're still violating the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
You're
Right, I
violating
can't
the
talk
zoning.
about it.
No, you're violating the zoning ordinance, there's no doubt about it.
Right.
You're taking your commercial business and you're dumping in a residential area. You're violating the zoning ordinance, and you have been for years, and you know it, or years now. So if you go to planning and zoning, maybe they can give you a waiver to do that, since you're not gonna burn, and you're just gonna store it and fill it up in beautification of the property and improve it. But you gotta go through the process, you can't just do
I
it.
wish I could respond to that. My attorney told me not to, so I wish I could talk to you, but I guess y'all will have that conversation.
Okay, Mr. Brewer, thank you for your time.
Thank y'all very much.
No problem. Anyone else? Mr. LeBlanc? Yeah, I got a motion by Mr. LeBlanc. Second by Ms. Norsees to close public hearing.
Did you have a third one?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Summary number 13300OR, an ordinance amending and or revising ordinance number 20061290OR relative to the authorization of the confection of an intergovernmental agreement for the occupancy by the St. Martin Parish Fire Service District of a fire station in Arnaville.
Anybody cares to speak on this? Okay, I need a motion and a second to get up, exit planning, public hearing. I got a motion by Mr. LeBlanc, and second by Ms. Jean-Baptiste. Call for the vote.
Summary number 1328OR, an ordinance reducing the speed limit to 15 miles per hour on Ulysses Abear Road located in District Number 1.
I need a motion and a second. I have a motion by Ms. Jean-Baptiste, second by Ms. Narcisse. Call for the vote.
Summary number 1329OR, an ordinance to amend Article 1 of Chapter 26 of the Code of Ordinances for St. Martin Parish, Louisiana, by the enactment of Section 2610, all relative to the prohibition of dumping and/or burning of specified substances and providing for penalties for a violation thereof. This is being adopted as amended.
I got a motion by Ms. Jean-Baptiste, second by Ms. Narcisse. Any discussions?
Thank you. I did, I'm. I just wanted to say that I did, request an amendment to the ordinance, this morning, to make sure that individuals on their own private property, if they do shrubbery work or leaves and stuff, that they're still allowed to, as long as they do it on their property, or they move it to their, if they can transport it as long as it's to their private property, then they're okay, it doesn't affect any individuals that way.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just for the record too, I think I might have said it earlier, two other amendments addressed the, adding that term and forestry to C2, I think it was. And the other amendment, again, was based upon conversations that many of you had with representatives of the sugarcane industry about back ash, and that it didn't apply to back ash, and we just put that in to clarify, so that there would be no question in the future.
Okay, let's call for the vote.
Summary number 1330OR, an ordinance amending and/or revising ordinance number 20061290OR relative to the authorization of the confection of an intergovernmental agreement for the occupancy by the St. Martin Parish Fire Service District of a fire station in Arnaville.
I got a motion by Mr. Richard, seconded by Mr. LeBlanc. Call for the vote.
Item 9, resolutions.